Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ensign Flex Pachinko. This is Obi-Wan Pez. We're on, okay. Good evening, Matthew. How's it going? Alright, we'll be pulling up Valheim in a minute here. I also get my other random stuff working. At the end of a very long week, we ended up, hang on one sec. Alright. Sorry for that. There we go. Yep, my kid's decided to be a jerk again, so we'll see how long this lasts. Hopefully, he will straighten himself out here. Because otherwise, he was going to bed. Away from everyone else. Yeah, okay, that's what it was. We have to go like that, go like that. There we go. Hey, Benji boy, how's it going? So, this evening, we'll be working on Obi Stash, and as I said in my description this evening, we're going to see if we can perhaps avoid the trolls as much as we can. There's a nice area where we can go and get into the forest, but I don't know how many trolls are going to be in that area. Probably not many, because again, it was a very small section. So much paperwork. Oh, we're hanging out, having a good time. Alright. It's gonna be good enough for now. I think we don't have really any food that we can get apart from... Yeah. I don't need this. Leave those where it was. This up. Okay, and let's see, we also got a new level in the bench. Yeah, workbench 3. So we need a lot of leather scraps, so we gotta kill some more boars to be able to upgrade our pants and tunic. The flint axe, we need flint and more leather. The bow, we need more leather and a deer hide, which we have 1. The hammer is at max quality. The helmet needs deer hide and bone fragments. We can get more deer hide, that's easy. The bone fragments are going to be skellies, so we gotta go find some skellies. They're going to be in the forest. Hoe is at the max quality. Flint knife, I'm typically not using it, but at the same time, it could be good to just boost it up. And wood shield, we need more resin and boar hide. Spear. flint boarhide. Okay. So we don't have boarhide, it looks like, at all. Do have some bone fragments, but probably not enough to upgrade. Helmets. Probably not. Helmet upgrade. Yeah, we need 5. I've only got 3. So we're going to set a goal. Where we want to go right now is up to Black Forest North. Oops. Oh, silly. Right, so we're just going to go sort of northwest slash northwest-ish in that general direction. Beehives we emptied out before I left last time. So, eat some more food, turn a bit this way, and let's go. Everybody have a fun, eventful, mathematical type week. Just doing the topics of sum and difference and double angle formulas in trig these last couple of days, so that gets fun. Talked a little bit about it on Wednesday. So this is multiplayer. You need to get into a group that will accept you, and they have to ow, jerk. Really? Hit and run. There we go. So you need to contact a group that would want you there and get access to their community server, and chances are they have a password attached to it. Or you can go rando and just access some random server. Generally speaking, if you're going to do random servers, you need to be respectful of everybody who's there and like their time and effort put into stuff. If you're going to go all full out destructo Minecraft like some of the people were in, ages past, you're not going to stay there very long. But maybe that's your plan. So for me personally, I'm like, if I'm going to do anything on stream, that is going to be an isolated map for stream only. This is not, however, a community map, so I am connected to 3 other community maps. And it's kind of interesting. In the front page, you just have to like you basically just select a character, so you can use whichever character you want. It doesn't have to be like, this is not a dedicated character to this server. So I could take this guy with his inventory that I have right now and just go to some other server, including my own or community servers elsewhere. Interesting thing about typing numbers into Valheim, at least it used to be the case, that the number pad input a different number than the numbers across the top row of your keyboard. Oh, come on. Boo. Don't waste an arrow. Oh, so close. Terrible shot. That's the other problem with deer. They don't seem to have a stamina bar, but I do. Skellies. Jerk. Oh, hey, here it is. This is the corner, the absolute edge, the very, very corner of the Black Forest, and it actually spawned a cave. So not like a Caesar cipher. It doesn't shift the number. The number you type is the exact same number as the number that's on the top row of your keyboard. The problem is that the input is different, and so Valheim at least used to read the input, and so it would read like you input key number, ASCII number 267 or whatever, and that is this number 1. But you input number, ASCII number 125, and that's this number 1 over on the other side. So they're two different codes that go into your computer, so that your keyboard can tell whether you're pressing the 1 over here or the 1 over there. That's alright. Burial chambers. Alright, so we gotta tag this on the map. So, let's see if I can explain it better but slower. So, when you touch any key on your keyboard, so it wasn't actually an explosion. We can get into that in a little bit. But if you touch any key on your keyboard, it sends a code, an electrical signal, through the wire or over wireless to your computer. And then the computer picks that up, throws it through the processor, and then the processor spits out a number or letter, whatever you've got. So if you hit a certain thing on your keyboard, it's going to send a code to your computer, which reads it and then spits the thing out on your output, your screen. So yeah, there are two different numbers inputs. So if you go into if I go in here and go to settings and do controls, right? If I click any one of these and I hit like the number 1 in the top row, it's just going to come up with 1. If I hit 1 over here on the number pad, it's actually probably going to say numpad 1. So it tells the difference between the two. And that becomes rather interesting. Alright, so we're going to collect some of these yellow mushrooms. These are also one of the only things that actually produce light in here, so I do apologize. I don't actually need the light myself. Yep, I gotcha. Ow. Right. So their outputs are the same. So actually, this is kind of like a parabola, right? You could input for y equals x squared. You could input 1, or you could input -1, and you're still going to come out with a value of 1. So it's not what we call a one-to-one function, but it is a function. So because you have any one given input only has at most one output at any given time, of course. Oh boy, that's a lot. This is gonna be unfortunate. Welp. Damn. Well, so it kind of depends. It can technically be different, or it can literally be different. So there's like two different things. Yeah, it's the sounds of their bones starting to scatter, essentially. Alright, so, that's fun. Ooh, mushroom there. Get some stamina. Welp. Do. What? Alright, so a little bit to the right, but pretty much that's it there. So, like, if you instantaneously teleported some distance away from Earth, and then look back at Earth, you would see Earth as it was when the light that is currently reaching you is telling you what it is. So, if you went back, if you went 14 billion light years away from here, again, instantaneously, then you would be seeing something 14 billion years in the past. Now, somewhere around 14 billion, you actually would get stopped, because approximately something like 200,000 years. No, it was a period of 200,000 years, I believe it was, where light was just contained within a small space that was there. The photons basically were unable to escape the quark gluon plasma that existed. So, like, these are elementary particles. So the quark gluon plasma that existed at the time didn't let light through. And because it didn't let light through, it was not able to, like, no photons are able to pass that barrier. And so it's basically just this seething mass of energy. And so we can see really, really far back using some of the, well, now JWST, but previously Hubble Space Telescope, whole bunch of stuff like that. What, like a black hole? Oh, seething mass of energy? So not really. So, the seething mass of energy that's there was super dense, but also really, really large. So it wasn't like a black hole where everything was stuck within, like, gravitationally bound. It was not gravitationally bound. It could have, in theory, let's see if they know where I am already, because that would suck. On the plus side, I might be able to lure them out. Sneak. I'm just gonna walk around here and get my sneak up. Let's farm that for a minute. While they all start leaving my corpse alone, I hope. Somehow I doubt it. Somehow I doubt they're not going to go there. So yeah, the Big Bang wasn't really an explosion, a bang, so much as it was an expansion in an extremely short amount of time. So it wasn't like, you know, a chemical explosion takes a lot of energy in a small place, and the occurrence of that energy is then released. In terms of the Big Bang, it was actually more like the creation of space-time. So space-time itself flowed out of this area, and it wasn't like a pop. It just kind of flowed out. So it'd be like, I don't know if I have an even good example for any of this, but like, you know, it'd be more like a volcanic eruption if it just kind of like started bubbling up to the surface and then flowing out. Like it didn't go bang, it just kind of came out of nothingness. So space started to expand. Okay, now where's my body? Alright, they're not here. No. I'm not hitting the right space or something. There's just something else going on here. Alright, let's make it to this door. So we can leave. We'll maybe keep him in. Bottleneck. Ow. Ow. There. Sheesh. So yeah, I did a lot of reading, especially from Stephen Hawking's Brief History of Time. That allowed me to understand a lot about astrophysics, especially. No! What the hell? So yeah, I learned a lot about astrophysics from Brief History of Time, which, granted, is like slightly out of date now, but it's still pretty good. It'll get you a baseline of like what the understanding was in the 1980s, and then not much changed until about 1998-ish, when Einstein's cosmological constant was discovered to actually have been correct. So, if you know that story, Einstein had at one point I mean, pretty much any discovery will revolutionize physics if it's sufficiently interesting enough. So yeah, basically Einstein had been under the belief that that the universe should be eternal, and it should be essentially in a steady state where it's not necessarily unchanging, but like the overarching like status of the universe should not be called into question. That is effectively the universe always existed and it always will exist. And so he did some calculations based on the Hubble constant, which was that Edwin Hubble discovered that all matter in the universe on large scales is starting to move away from each other, so that there's no currently known, at least, everywhere that we look, we cannot find a center of the universe. There is no source for the Big Bang. The problem is that if we look anywhere, it looks like we are the center of the universe. But then if we focus somewhere else, it looks like that's the center of the universe. And if we focus somewhere else, it looks like that's the center of the universe. So it's really difficult. You can't pin it down, at least with our current understanding of everything. So we are not the center of the universe. At the very least, Edwin Hubble discovered that all matter in the universe is moving away from each other. And so this was a kind of a blow to Einstein. He was like, I can't even fathom this. I don't understand how that's even possible. And so he introduced a constant into his calculations, which is known as the cosmological constant, which would, in effect, cancel out the entire, like, large-scale movement of the universe. Nope. We can't figure it out. It's not actually possible from our current point of view and current understanding of the universe. And, like I said, the cosmological constant's job was to effectively cancel out all mathematical calculation of when the universe started. So basically, it was to show that, or the job of the cosmological constant was to eventually start slowing down the universe into a steady state so that it would stop growing and eventually would hold at a steady level. Einstein then later on was like, look, I only did this for my own personal philosophy. It was basically his Jewish faith had influenced him to say, and that's just his personal faith, not the community, was Judaism has this fundamental belief that the universe is eternal. And so the idea that the universe was maybe not eternal was kind of bothering him. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to introduce this cosmological constant, which is going to make the universe eternal. Well, I mean, it could create itself somehow. But that's really not really a question for me, because I'm not really that well versed in any of the... Oh, man. That's a bad idea. Nope. That's a ghost. Don't like the ghost. And especially with a spear that's almost broken. And not feeling rested anymore. So Einstein termed the cosmological constant one of the greatest blunders that he had ever made in his career, because here he allowed his faith to blind him to the scientific reality that he had discovered. That's the same door. Okay. And so he was kind of ashamed for a little while, and then it wasn't until 1998 that somebody discovered that actually it turns out that the cosmological constant was something that we needed. However, it turns out that it's even worse than Einstein had imagined. So-called dark energy is some sort of anti-gravitational energy. Well, it's not really anti-gravitational, but it is causing the effect of like anti-gravity. So it's this like internal universal pressure that's pushing everything apart further and further and further and faster and faster and faster. So it's not even like Hubble was Hubble was right in that the galaxies are all moving away from each other, and all of them are moving away faster now than like stuff in our local group. So everywhere he looked, Edwin Hubble was discovering that every single um, every single galaxy that he noticed around us, that we're all moving away from us, and that means that their light was Doppler shifted, and so like you hear a police siren that's moving away from you lowers its pitch as it gets further and further away and faster. Um, Similarly, the okay. So similarly, all galaxies are moving further away from us, and their light is Doppler shifted toward the red, which means that all this stuff is moving away. And the further away it is, the more red shifted it is. So Hubble found this out, and Einstein was like, oh. And it wasn't until 1998 that somebody like really pinned down that this is because of an internal energy, which we call dark energy now, mostly because we just don't know the source of it. So it's basically an internal force that is pushing everything apart. I mean... So this starts getting into very interesting and non-scientific territory, which is the point of me saying, like, I typically will say I am not going to debate that sort of thing. It is true that we have not seen stuff come from literally nothing. But most likely, what most scientists are leaning toward is that there was some sort of energy potential that existed. And we don't know what it is. We can't see past the veil. That 200,000, first 200,000 years of the universe, it's all blocked off. We can't see anything. So unless we can actually rip a hole into a different universe or a different dimension or something like that, then we don't know. We just... I would say that we don't know of any examples where something can come from nothing, except there is such a thing as vacuum energy. So if you know 0-point energy, the real stuff, not the... I will also say that perhaps somebody could define it as nothing, which sprung out all of the something, but yeah, I mean, as far as we are concerned, we have never seen literally nothing come from, or sorry, literally something come from literally nothing. There is no precedent for that. For some sense of the word, sure. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. Ow. Before you face off against skellies, make sure you know how to dodge. right? There may have been something of which we cannot possibly understand. But again, it's not going to be, typically speaking, I'm not going to get into a philosophical debate. If we're going to talk physics, let's talk physics, but in which case we are always going to come back to, we don't know. And many of the questions of, like, oh, what then was the thing that created it? Oh, let me call that whatever I feel like. That's kind of an uninteresting question to science. Is that, like, okay, you can call it your God, you can call it your whatever you want, but it's an uninteresting question. Again, there's no data to support anything, so can't make any claims. That, generally speaking, is where I leave that debate. Four-dimensional. Have you read... I have not played Cuphead, nor do I have any inclination to play Cuphead. So anyway, yeah. Have you read The Long Earth by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter? Well, you may want to pick it up. So, not that one in particular, but later on in the series, there's The Long Mars, I think, and they basically go into that particular question, is that there is a creature that appears to have, like, higher dimensional hunting properties. So they find this intelligent life, and it appears to be stalking them through 4D. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, we kind of do that, right? At any one moment, we only see the we render a three-dimensional snapshot at every moment of time that our brain ticks over. So we usually think at approximately 30 to 50 hertz, depending on various factors. But that was silly. Should have looked for blueberries. So somewhere around 30 times a second, each of our neurons will fire. And then they also, many times, will fire in sequence. So, like, one fires and then the next one, the next, and the next one, etc. very quickly, in sequence very quickly. And it typically ends up being that, like, it seems like basically all of our, like, many of our neurons are firing at the same time. So it looks faster than, 30 to 50 hertz. But oftentimes it is just 30, because the problem is that the neurons need time to recharge their biochemical energy. And without being able to recharge the biochemical energy, they can't fire again and again and again. Let's get a better shield instead of the crappy one. And then we'll just exchange that. So, block armor 6, block force 20. Yeah. Block armor 32, block force 100. Movement speed gets cut pretty hard, but so it's because it's not like your entire visual perception fires at once, and then a 30th of a second later, it all fires again. That's not how it works. Every single individual cell is firing at 30 hertz, but they're all offset from each other. So you can tell the difference between somewhere, like between 30 and 60, you can usually tell the difference. Between 60 and 100, it becomes really hard to tell the difference. And for some people, there is no difference. It doesn't matter. For other people, they have a slightly evolved higher refresh rate, essentially. And so they can potentially see a slightly faster refresh rate. So they can see a slight difference. It's not going to be much, but it does exist for some people. Alright, we're going to toss that, because I don't want to accidentally boost that shield. Alright, Amber can go in here. And circling cores. Let's see. So I need to figure out what I need. I need 5 circling cores for each of those. Cool. Hooray. Not unless you actually can tell the difference. You know, just like some people have a higher resolution in their eyes. It's not necessarily that they have a 100% better resolution. It's just like some people's eyes are better and some people can't focus properly. I mean, there's a lot of different things going on in the eye, which require like a lot of different little manipulations and things like that. I actually can focus on almost anything. I have really good eyesight. I can't tell the difference between a lot of well, yes, okay, that's different. Yeah. So there is a, and I should probably put up a exclamation point thing on my screen. Should put in a command for it, but yeah, anytime that you are like engaged in a lot of like screen time stuff, you're focused really close, and it kind of like it's all of your muscles in your eyes are holding it to focus at this particular length. But human eye isn't really meant to stay at the same focal length for a really long time. The human eye is meant to search both far and near for prey, for predators, for making sure that we're, you know, don't have any enemies nearby, all that stuff. Yeah. So, for the most part, you definitely should not spend more than, I think it's an hour at the same focal length. RIP streaming. Or during the day, you should have many different focal lengths. So, I mean, me, I'm awful. I generally will have one focal length for a super long time. Nope, nope, nope. Okay. Nuts. Alright, whatever. Just break the floor. It's fine. It's weird. Okay, cool. So, yeah, generally speaking, you should have many different focal lengths at many different times. Just to make sure that you're exercising your eyes properly. Because otherwise, it becomes a bit of an issue. And, you know, your parents were not necessarily right. You won't necessarily ruin your eyes, but it's good practice to just keep keep moving your eyes around every so often, at the very least. That's weird. I think that one's sitting on a rock and it's slightly offset from the other, like 2 degrees or something ridiculous. So, yeah, I generally try to keep my eyes moving around, even on the screen, like try to make a different focal length. Even if that means I'm staring behind the screen for a little bit, it's fine. Alright, we need... Alright, that can stay here. This one is further than I can reach. So unless I'm about here, if I'm reaching straight out, this is about 3 feet. Right, and if I lean back, I'm further. It's not like it's changing the focal length much. It's not enough to actually, like, you know, help my eyes any, but generally when I'm just working through the day, I'll be looking at the screen, I'll have something on my phone that's a little bit closer, and I have windows at work, so it goes outside. Yeah, I can't do that. That's just insane. Unless it's like a very short amount of time. I actually found out, so I played Deathloop last night, just like a little preliminary bit to see, like, you know, is this worth playing on stream, that sort of thing. So, like, my computer's terrible. It wants around 5 gigs of VRAM, 5.5 gigs of VRAM, and I was like, ugh, okay. And up at the top, it's saying, like, how much VRAM I am putting toward it, and it's like 1,500. Like, ugh, 1,500 megabytes. So I'm just like, okay, that's not going to work. But I turned down the graphics to, like, the minimum amount that they could go. And it works. It works. So actually, the way I have it, like, this frames is pretty rough. You can even see how it's jumping around a bit. But yep. Anyway, so this bit rate is kind of low, even still. But so I played it just myself, and it was doing okay. I hard limited it to 30, I think, at 30 FPS, because I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna care. You know, the difference between 30 and 60 for me, I can tell the difference, but I just don't care. Especially if it's playable at 30 versus not really playable at 60. Still ridiculous. All I need is 2. Oh, you can buy a brand new computer with very good specs for a decent amount of money. probably like $1,000 to $2,000. Looking good. But I already have essentially 3 computers in this house that are all, parts from the last 5 to 10 years. So it all depends on what they are. Some of them are actually like not able to run almost at all, and some of them are, they're okay, but I would not want to try to test new games on some of these things. It's just not going to work. So yeah, I tried out Deathloop, and when I turned down the graphics as far as it would go on, all fronts, it was very fascinating. So this game, far from being like, oh well, you'll never be able to render anything, or it goes down to like 1 frame per second or something like that. Far from it. It stays pretty close to 30. But the focal distance is almost nil. So it's basically like Colt, your character, is like nearsighted, like seriously nearsighted. So I go around and I look out the window like this, and instead of being able to see all the trees with their nice, like, I can see leaves on the trees. I can see individual branches at 100 meters, right? Cole just sees splotches. Which also means that enemies that are beyond about 40 feet, I can't see them. I mean, I can see them, but they're like splotches. So they move, and I'm like, ah, that's an enemy. So I can still pick him off at, 100 yards, but he's basically nearsighted. It's ridiculous and hilarious, but, Hmm. So yeah, I ended up turning the graphics down, and it adds an interesting dimension to the game, because it's like, is this how nearsighted people are? Like all the time? I mean, it's probably not exactly, but yeah, might be a reasonable analog. So I might just have to do it for the comedic value of everybody looking at it and going, "What are you doing?" Kite. Ooh. No, you don't. Ah. So, that depends. So, generally speaking, it won't, because if it did, then we'd have a huge problem of, like, generational decay, and eventually we'd all just die. Right? Like, our lineages would not survive. Um, this being said, hashtag not a biologist, but I have done extensive reading on evolutionary biology, and it's a very fascinating subject. So basically, when you are If you are somebody who... If you have individuals in a population who reproduce, there we go. Right? The age at which you reproduce and put your DNA onto the next generation can affect the quality of the DNA you pass along. So I don't want to be like, oh yeah, you should totally have kids at like 12 because then your DNA is pure. No, like don't do that. That's terrible. Where is this cave? There we go. So the longer you live, the more your DNA starts getting shot through with holes because of cosmic particles, because of just radiation here on Earth, through, you know, all sorts of different means. So where the hell is the cave? Wait, is that it? No. Okay, cool. Yeah. Damn you. Jeez. Okay, that's enough. Of course. So not really. Your genetic code is passed on into your gametes, right? The parts that you then pass on to a partner, or your partner passes to you, or you keep in your body, or whichever you've got, right? Basically, your DNA is a double helix strand that then gets ripped in half by this particular substance, and you know this then allows the eggs in females and sperm in males to then have their genetic code put into each of the chromosomes. Keep in mind, right, again, like hashtag not an evolutionary biologist, but still, this is like the basic overview. So, starting to get a headache. Oh, that's not good. Don't do that. Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, some of your DNA has damage to it at like every moment of your life. You could take a snapshot at any given time, and some of your DNA will probably have some sort of damage to it. Now, it could be just your arm, right? Like a strand of DNA in your arm. It could be a strand of DNA in your brain. It could be a strand of DNA anywhere in your body. It's when it gets into the gametes, if there is some sort of, you know, damage, then that could cause potential problems later on. So it could cause mutations in your DNA structure, in the code that you pass on, which then could lead to a few different things. So one thing that could happen is that the DNA in a certain sequence could replicate itself and then basically shove another part over. So if you have like a replication error or a duplication error, then it ends up duplicating that piece of genetic code. Who knows what it'll do? It will only eventually manifest itself in any children you might have with that one particular set of DNA. If that particular set of DNA is not used, then it's no problem. Doesn't matter. I mean, yes. So it's practically impossible for, like, one particular issue to become, like, a genetic or a population-wide problem. Boo. And even then, you know, not all genetic mutations are necessarily bad. So, like I said, the possibility that you could have a duplication error could just mean that you end up having, you know, two sets of this particular set of DNA, or you could end up with so the problem with genetic engineering is that if you insert a set of codes into a specific place into like the human genome, there's no real understanding of what kind of knock-on effect that's going to have. So yeah, maybe you could like give yourself photosynthesis, but it's possible that that's going to create some sort of cancer. Or yeah, oh yeah, or that it could give the species you put it into as it could manifest itself as a cancerous tumor. It could just never activate. It could, like, there's so many things that could happen. We can't really come up with, you know, what will happen unless we experiment with it. But generally speaking, artificially tampering with species DNA has been kind of off the table for a lot of researchers because they're just like, yeah, that's something I'm not doing. Or at least like certain things. They have to have a good reason to try it. Great. And now my spear is almost completely toast. Why do I not see the cave entrance? I was pretty sure it was waterside. Oh no. Wasn't waterside, was it? That's where what's his face was. That's where Hugin was. And then we came over to the back. It was like right here. Come on now. It didn't move. Yeah. Oh, you mean like for power and stuff like that? Yeah, yeah. I mean, in theory, but honestly, plants do it better. They've been evolving for billions of years. So, a lot of times people will just be like, well, I mean, yeah, we could research it, but we could also just, like, you know, put more plants in the ground. Seriously? Like, where is this thing? Oh, the cave must have been awful. Sorry. Maybe I need some water. That might be it. Hey, tin. 7, 6. 4 tin ore. That's pretty nice. Will old music become outdated? So, this actually becomes a genetic question. It's basically the exact same thing as genetic code. So those things which survive more will be copied more, and then become more popular for longer periods of time, and eventually those things will be carried on through into the future. Eventually some of it's going to get lost, but that's not why my brain's hurting. Alright, so we found a copper deposit, that's nice. I wasn't able to find a copper deposit earlier, so this is one of the only places that we've actually found it. Nope. Ooh. Come on now. Stabby. Alright. So let's see, we gotta put a copper deposit here. Oh. Idiot. I'm in the complete wrong place. That's burial chambers. This is the Black Forest. Alright, I'm getting rid of that one, because that's just stupid. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I want to take that on just yet. It's fairly easy, but at the same time, if I misjudge it, I can lose pretty heavily. Yes, so I did get affiliate. I am now officially on Twitch's payroll, which means, like, maybe I'll get some money someday. But they needed my tax information. Come on. Come on over here. Alright, here we go. Now we can actually find the cave. Oh. Where'd you come from? Ouch. Honk. No. So, like, I don't know that I would ever slip back down. I mean, there's probably something in the legal documentation that I totally read. Um, just like the end user license agreement. Yep, totally read it. Yeah, so there's probably something in there that's like you have to, you know, stream at least once every so often, and um, I don't think that it actually has a like viewership thing. I think it's just like you're trying. But if you're trying and you don't have people come, then you're just not going to get any money. So it's like whatever. Yep. Hi. So if anyone wants to get into evolutionary biology, you know, like learn the basics, I would recommend. There are a few people who really, really do an awesome job. One is Forrest Valkai, who is the renegade scientist, or no, renegade science teacher. I really like his stuff. He does a really awesome job with all of his explanations. Oh, that's too bad. Steam notifications. Man. Should be a thing right here. It says, like, don't do that. Alright, whatever. So, Forrest Valkai, I can highly recommend. He knows his stuff. He is funny and knowledgeable and like make sure that people really understand how evolutionary biology works and also most certainly does not work. And he's quite passionate. Interface. Let's see, like friends. Ugh. Yeah. All right, maybe not. Yeah, I really like his stuff. If you watch Star Talk at all, right? He and Chuck do a really great job of just like having fun and talking about science. And Chuck's a really good. Chuck has become a really good questioner, like interviewer, in terms of what sorts of things are going to constitute good questions. It's kind of like Brady Heron from Numberphile. Like at the beginning, he didn't really know what to ask. He just like had some ideas that was like, what'd you come up with? Like, what's new? He didn't really know what was going on. And then lately, he's been asking like really astute questions that some of the people he's interviewing are like, Brady, that's an excellent question. Alright, I've already been that way, so cool. Rather, there isn't a that way. Alright, so let's see. Already been that way. Cool. So this is where we ran into all those skeletons. We had the big giant room over here. And then the ghost is a couple more hallways over. So that was... I think either way got there, but it was just kind of like an eventually thing. So anyway, Forest Valk... here it is. Forest Valkai is really good. And, Aaron... He says his name slightly differently. Aaron? Yeah, Aaron Ra. Aronra. Does a really good job with communicating evolutionary biology as well, but he's also like an anti-apologist, so he really fights against religious apologetics, which is like basically the art of explaining your religious position or your logical arguments, even though they make no sense. So he's kind of against that. Saying like this is a rather disingenuous argument. You can't make that. And people will be like, but. He has a bet going that anybody who is a creationist can come onto his show. He will explain what evolutionary biology is and is not. And it's something like if you... Yeah, it's basically like apologetics is evidence has been shown that you are wrong. Now you need to essentially apologize as far as like what you believe, and somehow still make what you believe fit into the model, despite the fact that it's completely like contrary. So, creationism, for example, when you start looking at like young Earth creationism versus intelligent design versus actual evolutionary biology, it becomes pretty obvious very quickly who knows what they're talking about and who doesn't. And like he is all for spirited debate, and he loves it, and he will, very enthusiastically talk with people about their particular beliefs. And he's like, as long as you're cool about it, like we can have a good conversation. And he has a bet going that like basically your creationism will crumble under my logic. But you are not allowed to like talk over each other. And there was something else that he said. I've already been this way. What was it? If you interrupt me like more than 3 times or assert something that is just blatantly not true, then basically the conversation's over. But he also said like if I don't explain evolutionary biology to the level that you are happy with it, I will concede that it did not work. God, this is not working. Jeez. This is crazy. I don't like ghosts. Oh no. Back myself in a corner. Wow. If I crouch, he just left? That doesn't make any sense. Is he attacking the skeleton? Because that's awesome. I might be able to get him. Ooh, nice. Yes. So as it turns out, the ghosts are too wide to fit through there. Who knew? So, yeah, you should definitely listen to what the bet is for Aaron, because he's like very unequivocal about it. He's like, look, this is the deal. I will explain all of evolutionary biology to you to your satisfaction. Not even to my satisfaction, to your satisfaction. But, you know, you can't interrupt more than 3 times and, you know, all this other stuff. And so far, nobody has ever, like, nobody has ever made it to the level where it's even a question of, do you, like, he doesn't even get to the point where he asks them, like, have I explained this to your satisfaction? They all quit. He said at one point, there has only been one person that I have ever actually convinced, like, to come back and have multiple conversations and, like, talk about this on a much more deep level, and I married her. So he met her through some church thing, and he was, like, explaining how evolutionary biology actually worked, and then she listened, and then eventually the two of them started a relationship, and obviously that only works one time, but but yeah, these days she goes with him on tour. The two of them are like absolute like 80s rock and rollers. He's got hair that's like down to here. They both go biking, like motorcycles. There was a time. Yeah, no, it's not even that they're not convinced. It's that they won't even listen to like his points. They just stop listening at some point and they're like, but, and he's just like, no, look, you agreed that you were going to actually try and listen. And they're eventually just like, all right, that's it, and just hang up. Because they're, you know, they're so entrenched in their particular belief, it cannot possibly be wrong. And anybody who says otherwise is, you know, lying to them. That's just, yeah. That's just the way things are, right? Everybody who thinks that science is real must be lying, because it couldn't possibly, my beliefs couldn't possibly be wrong. And like, you know, there are plenty, almost all, in fact, of the, like, I mean, basically everybody who is religious and also understands, truly understands biology, evolutionary biology and all that, like, if they truly understand it, they understand that it's not like a threat to their faith. Okay, it's just, it works. It can work. Some things about their faith may be wrong, because it's literally contradicting reality. But again, you know, they can be compatible. Just how much are you willing to actually look at the evidence that exists and really think hard about it? And that seems to be like the stumbling block for most of the people. Is that they have not been trained to think hard about things in difficult ways. I hate to say stuff like that, but you know, most of the time it is true. Let's see. Okay, so I now have 4 Surtling cores. So close. So I'm going to need a kiln first, because otherwise I can't make coal. And I don't have that much coal. I only got like one piece or something, so that wouldn't make a smelter go very far. If everything went perfectly? I mean, like if everything was in your holy book is 100% true? Oh. How dare you insinuate that could be a possibility. Let's see. Alright. That's unfortunate. Do I really not have any flint? That's terrible. Huh, okay. I have not, but I'm not really that surprised. Like, it worked for one of my friends, but was it really that he was just eating fewer calories in total? Or was it that he, like, changed something about his diet, and that was what fundamentally tripped, like, what was going on? There's too many variables, realistically. It's, like, you can't 100% pin down everything. 1030 versus 835. Okay. Appears to be something outside. Alright, let's go like this. I found it an interesting prospect, but I never really, like, delved. I never tried it myself. Yeah, and, like, don't eat too much. Novel concept, really is. Yeah, trying as much as you can. Alright, so let's do something like this. Let's say... where are the trophies? Trophies are in the last one. Great. So take out the old stuff. Take out the seeds. Stuff worth money over there. Stuff up here. I don't really watch much on like a regular basis. I have watched what was that Akira, and Ghost in the Shell, and yeah, going back a ways. Inuyasha was one of my friends' favorites, so naturally I watched it with them. And what was the other one? I never actually watched Cowboy Bebop. They were really into it, and I was just like, I don't get it. Like, it was fine. It wasn't. I don't think it was my thing. Or more realistically, I didn't give it much of a chance. So it's possible that I would like it now. And also possibly the live action one with John Cho and all them. I've heard it's not so great, but I don't know if those are just purists who are upset because it's, live action now, and how dare they. And Alucard. God, why can't I think of it? What's the name of the damn anime? Okay. It's good to know. Alright. Time to shiv. Why can't I think of the vampire anime? So it's the one with Alucard, who is a vampire, and he turns a policewoman who is the sole survivor of a vampire attack. Nope. So she's the sole survivor of a vampire attack. All the rest of her colleagues, the other police people, have been turned into zombies, which are basically like vampire thralls. Mindless, just attack everybody. Hang on, I have it on my drive. Let's see if I can... Okay. Intermission. Not games, videos. TV. Oh, did I get rid of it? I might have gotten rid of it. Oh. Yeah, I think I got rid of it. Oh, wait, movie shows. There we go. Hellsing. Yep. So, Hellsing was a good one. I watched through... I probably watched it through like 2 or 3 times total. And haven't seen it in probably 10 years, but, I liked it at the time. So yes, he rather condescendingly calls her policewoman, which, it's fine, I guess. It slightly bothers me, but it's fine. Yeah, so Alucard is a um, vampire with like all sorts of cool blood powers, but he doesn't have a whole lot of them at the beginning of the show, and then like any good anime, he starts leveling up. Um, in order to save the policewoman, he needs to turn her, and so it's like the main thrust of the show is her coming to terms with now being a vampire as well, and like you know not wanting to feed because that's kind of like inhumane. I don't want to hurt other people. You know, I'm a police officer. Yeah, she does sort of the same thing that I've seen in Blade, I think, where like, you know, the freshly turned person is like, I don't want to drink blood. That's crazy. What are you talking about? So she tries to go without and then starts like essentially starving, and the Papa Vampire's like, look, dude, you gotta eat. I have heard of Trigun. That's the one with the um, really tall silver robot sort of thing, and the blonde kid. Yeah, I couldn't tell you which blade I'm thinking of, but probably all of them. I was thinking more the movies, because there's a lady who gets turned in order to save her life again. Oh. Well, I think the problem with the endings is that they get canceled kind of on short notice. Because honestly, same thing happened with The Expanse. I was a little upset, and I'm going to try to not spoil the ending of that one. I still think, excuse me. Oh, in his case, the only possibility was trying to uh, go without, or else he would have to take blood from the woman that was with him. And he was just like, no. But yeah, the first 4 seasons of The Expanse were super strong. I thought they were really good. Season 5 started going a little bit off the rails, and then like halfway through season 6 they ended up canceling it. So they only have like 10, 12 episodes in the 6th season, which like it's fine, but they did the same thing as with like Battlestar Galactica. They ended the season in the middle of it, where it doesn't make sense to end it there. So they had to like wrap up all the plot lines in about 3 hours when they were supposed to have 20, you know, or 20 more. Ooh, I heard somebody growl. There's definitely a troll nearby. To my right. Over the hill. I don't see him. Yep, okay, there it is. Top of the hill there. Yeah, because I mean they were gonna have a few more kind of like somewhat open-ended sort of things that were going to happen, and so it was going to lead to more stuff that could open up to more plot lines in the next season. But instead, they weren't going to have another season. So they were like, oh, gotta tie that up real quick. And like one of them, one of the plot lines, they were like, it was basically a throwaway line. Where this little girl was running off somewhere, and they're like, "You're gonna die," and she's like, "Nah, it's okay." I'm like, but so I didn't realize what they were doing until after it was over and I read some of the synopses, because after the fact you can look back and be like, "Oh, that was the circumstances under which they wrote these episodes." So So I'm watching this thing where they're like, okay, or the girl says, it's fine, I'll die, it's okay. And then I went and watched like somebody's video on YouTube about this particular plot. Well, I mean, like the ending of the series, and they were like, here's the reason that this happened, and I went, oh, that makes way more sense now. So like they would have explored that. They would have had, several episodes just unto itself to talk about this one thing. Maybe not several, but maybe a full episode to talk about it. And then they were like, it's basically 2 minutes. Go. I mean, these days, what we really need is like, there's so many writers now who are like going back and writing, good new endings to things, or they're getting into like teams of writers who really know how to write good material. And they're like, let's really think about this, not just worry about it being something that's going to be episodic. Like, I think I really like what Doctor Who did, wherein in the Stephen Moffat run, which it has its own problems, but nonetheless, in the Stephen Moffat run of Doctor Who, you have stuff that's episodic, that never leaves that one episode, and that's fine. But it will somehow be referenced later on in usually that series. Or what we call season. So at some point later on in the season, there's going to be a callback to it. Usually. And then they would have arcs, which would be usually 2 to 3 episodes that talk about, a short thing. Okay, fine. And then they would have a series arc, which would go basically like the entire 6 to 12 episodes, whatever they've got going on. As Doctor Who started going on further with Stephen Moffat, they ended up with quite a lot of episodes per series. So it's unlike the American shows, which are pretty much always 20 or 26. Doctor Who was like always, or BBC in general is always like, you get 6 episodes. Go. And then Doctor Who commanded so much more attention. So the show was well known. It could go back into, it was coming back from a long hiatus, basically since the late 80s, early 90s or mid 90s was when the movie was. Yes, there was a Doctor Who movie. And then, in addition to doing episodic and arc and series, they also had Doctor arcs, which would be like the entire time that this Doctor is a part of this show, here's what we're going to do. And they had plans. And some of them evolved over time because the writing changed or whatever, and that's fine. It worked really well. I mean, overall. Yeah, well. Authoritarian's gonna authoritariate. Ugh. It was fun. I had my first, I mean, this is like a month ago now, but I had my first, like, actual propaganda account that was obviously propaganda, that was obviously a Russian bot, like, pop up, and I was like, oh, this ought to be fun. So, it was an apologist who was talking about, yeah, they were a Russian apologist that was stating basically like, oh, this was a totally necessary war, and the invasion is totally 100% like justified. And I was just like, okay, A, as soon as we're done with this conversation, I'm blocking you. B, I am going to rip you a new one along with these 5 other people. And C, there was something else we did. What was it? Oh yeah, I responded using, I mean, Google Translate. I doubt it. I mean, so, do you know Answers with Joe? He's another YouTuber. Does good work, generally speaking. Yeah. So, Answers with Joe, he just talks about, you know, current events and cool science stuff and various other things. So he talked recently about, like, the generational kind of culture that exists, and everybody just needs to chill out because, like, millennials are not the most awful ever, nor are Gen Z, nor are Xers, nor are... So everybody just needs to chill out and shut up. But, yeah, one of his things was on, or through that episode, he started talking about, like, you know, how the generations perceive, where the hell does my stuff go? Oh, that was the, yeah, okay. That was the cache stuff. Xers, generally speaking, were promised this really awesome, you know, new world that was coming. And, or, no, that's wrong. Xers were basically promised that the Cold War was going to end their lives. And basically, the theme of the entire generation became the words of Nirvana, "Oh well, whatever, never mind," where basically, like, well, we're all gonna die anyway, so might as well just say F it and not care too much. And so they were promised essentially the apocalypse, and it never came. So then they're all like, well, you know, a lot of people in Generation X were raised in this "you're gonna die anyway" mentality. And then, like, they didn't end up necessarily caring about the future. So now that it's the future and it's sort of like, or at least in the last few years, it's been, you know, it's okay. He's like, you know, the people in Generation X are all like, wow, this is really awesome. So generally speaking, they have high hopes for what is to come, like, immediately following now. Now, granted, he was talking mostly about before the war started. I mean, yes, but at the same time, like... You just stand there. I mean, fine, but... yes, and there's also the fact that, like, we're still, even despite Russia, we're still in the most stable time that we've ever had in our pretty much entire history. You know, Russia notwithstanding, like I say. Most of all of our history, this is still the most peaceful time that we have had, the last 60 years or so. Despite the threat of nuclear war, right? The threat is there, but it still hasn't culminated in anything actually happening. So there have been a few close calls and all that, but again. Whereas people of my generation and slightly younger, the millennial and I would be considered zennial, so the like ex-millennial, people who are kind of in between, grew up with like that sort of mentality of our seniors who are just like, whatever. And most of us are like, are you insane? Like, we have all this opportunity. Why are you squandering it? And we grew up on the internet, where the possibilities are essentially endless. And now that the future has come again, and the possibilities are not necessarily endless because all the idiots are running stuff, and they're like, you know, they're wrecking everything. We see it as like, what the hell? We were promised so much better. Why did this happen? And I don't necessarily subscribe to either of these modes of thinking. I'm just doing my own thing. But nonetheless, you know, the millennials, generally speaking, were promised a much brighter, amazing future, and now that it's just sort of average, it feels like a betrayal. And he's like, look, he basically said the same you did, where it's like, I understand both of these mentalities, and they're perfectly valid and reasonable expectations, but at the same time, like, everybody just needs to chill the F out. But yeah, he also said, like, you know, the oncoming threat of nuclear war or new Cold War, all this is just kind of like for us, you know, for us Xers, he says, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of returned to normal. They're just like, yeah. And for Zennial Millennials, it's been like, what the hell? But you know, we're just going to keep working, trying to do what we can. Who knows what's going to actually happen? We'll have to see. So the other thing about, like, nuclear technology in general is that, generally speaking, it's fairly safe overall. Yeah. Yeah. It's fairly safe overall. Like, unless somebody maliciously does something, or somebody's just a complete idiot and does something they're not supposed to, then we're not going to have really, like, many more meltdowns like at Chernobyl's or Chernobyl, or even the meltdown at 3 Mile Island. Like, that was a mistake. There was a meltdown, but it didn't actually, it was contained. Like, it didn't go anywhere. So, save Pennsylvania. I mean, I sort of disagree that anything that can happen will. You know, Murphy's Law, of course, but it won't necessarily happen like that. I would say that it's more likely that we're going to have something like a sum of all fears kind of thing going on where you know, you end up with like a rogue, either a rogue state or a rogue individual that finds a way to put a suitcase nuke somewhere in, you know, a big city somewhere. And it'll happen. Maybe, um, maybe there's going to be some war profiteers who are attempting to, you know, start a war just because they can. Which, I mean, pretty much is what's going on now, but... Alright, so now that we have 5 cores and 50 stone. Okay, we don't have 50 stone, but we have close enough. With which part? All that stuff up there. Yeah, okay. That was a good rock. Served me well. Ayo. Alright, so we need a charcoal kiln before we get a smelter. Alright, and we need to flatten the ground first, so. Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much everybody thought that he wasn't going to, because that would be insane. Why would he do that? But, like I said earlier, authoritarians gonna authoritariate. Nah, I don't think he's bored. I think he realizes that he's kind of down to his last chance to do something important. Yeah, I totally had China invading Taiwan as the next thing. But it seems that's probably not far off either, given all the ridiculous flyovers and everything else they've been doing. Johnny Harris did a good... I'm just going to keep referring to other people, it's fine. Johnny Harris did a good YouTube video on each of these things. So he did one specifically that talked about Russia, and he did one that was specifically talking about China and Taiwan. Shoot. The forest is moving. No. Don't break my stuff. Uh-oh. That's not good. Got a brute. I need a bomb. I don't know that I can have a bomb. Alright, 1, 2, get out of here. Eat stuff. Ouch. That's helpful. Whee! Ouch. Whee! Come on. Oh, that's not good. Whee! No. Great. I'm screwed. That's some good distance, though. Not now, Hugin. Come on. Really? Oh, that's not good. Shit, come on. Oh no, not home. Let's have you not destroy my house. Nope, that's bad. Caught up against a rock. So these guys are what are called Graylings. Oh, Grey Dwarf. Well, probably Graylings is their general name, but so the Grey Dwarfs are basically like people who did awful things in life, who got cursed to live this sort of not nice existence, chasing people around the afterlife. There we go. What? You have been invaded. Yes, yes. So, like, the good news here is that they don't necessarily attack me all that often, and it mostly has to do with, like, the most I think it's like based on the areas you've been to, what is available to happen to you. Ah, there we go. And I got too much. There we go. Lots of coal. Woo! That's fun. Usually when like streamers stand up, go and go walk away to do something, they can also hit the like send a 1-minute ad thing. Yeah, so that's something I could actually do now. Psh, what? I promise that I will only ever do it if I'm actually walking away. Alright, hang on one sec. Right, so anyway, yeah, I'm not walking away yet. That was just me saying goodnight. So, which did take slightly longer than I had thought, but whatever, it's fine. That we can just drop outside. The 5 we can put here. Hang on to that. I don't have a disposal area. Oh, not a resin. Oh, okay. Okay, so eventually this is going to make enough coal that I can throw it outside in a pile like this stuff. Rocks. So every pile of 50 you can just dump in a corner somewhere. Alright, so now I need to go find maybe another different area of the forest. Or somewhere up here. There might be another, yeah, there might be another burial chamber somewhere up in this area. So time to go exploring. I think fill in the map here and fill in the map there. Let's just go north. Wait, what time is it? Really? Okay. I mean... If you're saying that you want to get off of your computer at sundown, or if you want to get off your computer after sundown, there's always a reason, right? You can always come up with a reason. I know that for cars, you're supposed to drive with your headlights 1/2 hour after sundown to 1/2 hour before sunrise. Maybe that's just my state, but I think that's usually the case. Oh, shoot. Almost lost those to charcoal. Alright, looking good. Doesn't look like I have any random stray objects anymore. If it's for OCD's sake, you should definitely do it at 6:30. Just to be contrary. Alright. The first thing I want is like flint and leather scrap. So I need a crap ton of flint. That's all I really need. So I should go to a corner of the map somewhere. Alright, so let's go north. Let's go find the thing. Actually, you know what? Let's... Pathin. Pathin. Okay, I cannot just hold down bar. That's too bad. Or the mouse button. What happened? Oh no, are you working at that job that was shown on Twitter? You know which one I'm talking about. I'm not sure I understand. Oh, because you're on... Wait, no. Oh, because they don't have the money to bring more than one person in at a time. Gotcha. Yeah, no, I was referring to that one job somebody posted about on Twitter, where it was like their boss sent a thing that was like, I cannot believe the number of people who have put in their 2 weeks notice because they got better offers, which is, the boss wrote this, mind you, which is completely, I don't know how that's even possible given that we pay all of you, like, I can't remember the condescending language that he's used, but it's like, considering that we pay like substantially better wages than anybody else in this industry or something like that. Management. No, it didn't say like what field this was, but I'm guessing it's probably retail. But, you know, 99% of the comments were like, well, if I worked for this guy, I'd be quitting immediately. So the other problem was that when you look at, like, it was the rest of it was like, again, super condescending. So the boss is like, you know, I can't believe that you would all be so inconsiderate in leaving your job and not giving us enough time to, like, you know, hire and train your replacements. So the deal is now that you will be required to present 3 months notice of leaving this job. It is, you know, going into the employee handbook effective immediately. You have to give 3 months notice, and you must train your replacement, or else we might be able to, like, I don't know, sue for lost wages or something like that. I don't know. And given that it's in the employee handbook, right, it's potentially legally binding, especially with the way courts are in this freaking country. It was like, I can't believe how inconsiderate you people would be for having left when, like, you know, a lot of your coworkers have family and, like, children that they would like to see, and so like, how could you leave them to pick up your hours? It's terribly inconsiderate. Like I said, everybody's just like, wow, I wouldn't even give 2 weeks, I just wouldn't show up anymore. So I'm guessing that boss probably doesn't have a job anymore. Because I'm betting corporate saw the response on Twitter and was like, ooh, this doesn't look good for us. Instead of, you know, actually fixing the problem. Let's just blame it on the one bad apple and move on, right? It's totally how it works. All right. Well, yeah, but I mean, if I already work 40 hours and I didn't ask for overtime, especially like, I mean, he's right in the sense that, like, I do have a family and I wouldn't want to work 40 hours a week or more than 40 hours a week if I were in retail. I would be perfectly happy working a lot less hours in retail if that was the case. But, you know, a job's a job, so if I had to, I would. It'd suck. Alright, let's see. What is over here? A hill. And more honey. Oops. Oh. Also had another proud dad moment tonight. We had a our kids' school had a talent show, which of course, you know, everybody's like, "Oh man, talent show for third graders." um, Turned out it was really good because, you know, very different from my school where we had 26 people in each grade and that was it. Um, so in this class, they've got like, I don't know, four classrooms in each grade or something like that. So there's a lot of talent that's out there. So they ended up having this talent show. Everybody's doing their thing. Our daughter decided that she was going to go out there and sing a song that she'd been singing with her chorus, like in a big group, just by herself. You know, just like you do. So now, my wife has a background in I hear it. Ah, there it is. My wife has a background in theater. So she, you know, sings all the time. And, like, I have been in choirs and choruses and things like that. So I sing all the time, too. Just usually to myself. And so we're kind of like, you sure? Because, like, that's kind of a big step. And she was like, oh yeah, it's no problem. So we're like, okay, this is going to go one of two ways. Either she is going to be super enthusiastic about this and just get on stage and do it and completely blow us all away. Or she's going to get up there, get handed the microphone, and then she's just going to freeze entirely, 100%, right there on stage. Possibly start crying. So we're like, I have absolutely no idea which way this is going to go, but we'll see. So yeah, she totally... they had a dress rehearsal last night, and then the real thing tonight. So she went, and my spouse sent me a text with an embedded video of her just getting up there and doing it. I'm like, all right. I guess she's got it. Oops. So, real thing came tonight. She, again, just completely knocked it out of the park, and everybody's like, oh my god, she's wonderful. I'm like, I don't know how she got up there and got the courage to do it, but hey, I'll take it. You may be asking yourself, what is supporting this house? And indeed, that is the point. I'm knocking this right over. There you go. Construction is very interesting in Valheim. So basically, there's like a tension on every piece in a piece of construction. And so it starts turning from green to yellow to orange to red, and then breaks. But it has to go through all of the individual and intermediate steps. And when the tension gets released off the thing, it can, as you might have seen there, just sort of reset. So a piece that is hovering in midair may go from green to yellow to orange to maybe even to red, and then a piece attached to it breaks, so it goes back to green. Yeah, standing in front of a crowd and singing my heart out is not my idea of a fun Friday night. But you know what? She did it, and she knocked it out of the park. Like, I did... I was a member of the chorus, and then was invited to sing solos for our, like, certain pieces that we did. And, yeah, it was, like, even just thinking about it now kind of, like, starts piquing my anxiety just a little tiny bit. I'm good, but I'm not, like, I'm not that good. I'm much better as a chorus member with a lot of people. Or, like, small ensemble group. Like, barbershop quartet, I could do. But solo, just really not my thing. Also doesn't help, like, you know, like I've said before, my range is just all sorts of... my range is all sorts of low. And, like, the higher I go, the harder it is to even get remotely close. And the real shame is my wheelhouse is an octave down from usually everybody else's. So trying to sing somebody's song an octave down doesn't necessarily sound good. Projects and presentations. Woo! Oh, no. This was for a school talent show, so it wasn't even... This was for free. So Matthew, you say you want to do NG plus on life? 3 of them. Oh boy. Yeah. No, NG plus. New game plus. Generally, it's where you retain some stats or something like that, but you start over. It's not always easy mode. Yeah, I actually did it on Heaven's Vault. So that game with the translations. I made it to the end of it, not on stream. This was before. So I made it to the end, and then it was like, you know, do you want to start over? Or it immediately automatically started over. And it was like, new game? I was like, okay. And when I did it, it kept all of the old translations. So it was like I was, rather than a, you know, student of this language, it was like I was now a master of this language. And I got all sorts of, all the new translations that were coming up the next time around. And some of them you'd just be like, you know, if they were the same translation as we'd seen in the previous run, it would just pop up with almost every single thing filled. And be like, oh, well, I know what this says. I mean, especially with a game that deals with language, where, you know, a finding out the language is a core mechanic of the game. This is really cool. Hmm. Yeah. Metal Gear Solid had some activatable bonuses in the second and third playthrough. That was, I think that was one of the first times I became aware that, like, NG Plus was a thing. You know, not including Mario 1, for example, or Zelda, Legend of Zelda, because that's slightly different. That is, like, you know, the second quest. I'm taking a crap ton of flint. Just dark enough. think I fixed one of these up last time. That one? Yeah. This is the one. Could have used that last time instead of running all the way back home. Oh well. Oh, I ripped up the bed anyway. Yeah, actually I don't play Overwatch at all. I've played Paladins, which I'm not very good at. Uh, and Team Fortress 2. Like, it's about as close as I get to those kind of games. Where am I? Okay, what's left? I mean, it's always been a PvP game. How are they going to do that? Oh, was it going to be like you either solo or like as a group of friends would take on the computer? Oh. More boar. Alright, so I need more Sturtling cores before I can actually get anywhere. Which means this is going to unfortunately be the end of stream. Let's cut up some more stuff here. Make upgrades to Flint Spear, because I'm using that as my primary weapon. It would kind of make sense to actually upgrade it. And then I need 10 more Flint beyond that. How many do I have? 9. Good. Oh, good. Lovely. Yeah. Hardly surprising. I mean, just about everybody does that. Alright, 2 Flint for the Flint knife. 4 Flint for the Flint knife. And 6 more, so we're not going to do that one just yet. I got 3 leathers. We got some more back here somewhere. Ooh. Aw. I'll let that go to coal. Yep. All 4 of them. So this is what I get for not paying attention. Okay. There's 3 more of them. 7 here. I got 10 now. That's good. What was it that I wanted to really upgrade? Leathers. Need deer hide 4. I can do that at least. Some. Got 'em. 4 more deer before I can actually get those both. Let's do a leather tunic first. I already have a leather helmet, so that's not going to help. Inventory full. Psh, what? Alright, let's put out some more. What? How is it even possible? Alright, so take out 50 wood here. Turn around. Make 2 more of these bad boys. Alright, leather tunic. And upgrade. Right, I need 6 plus 5 bone fragments. Interesting. Let's upgrade the bow since we're going to get rid of the rags here. So I need 8 leather and 2 deer for the next level. Realistically, we're probably going to find a recurve bow pretty soon and then be able to change that out. But we'll see how it goes. So leather tunic, this is the rag, yeah. So quality 1, armor 2, and armor 1, yeah. Okay. That one, yep. So all the stuff we've already used can go up here. So then, don't do the rag pants. Bone tower shield. No. I need to upgrade 4, so I don't have a level 4 yet. Let's see. We have a tanning rack. We have a chopping block. So there's nothing else we can do for this. I think the next one up is going to be you have to get the anvil or something like that. So we need the metal stuff. So we're going to have to get more surtling cores in order to get the smelter, in order to get the metal, in order to build pretty much anything else. So I'm going to have to find a new area of forest. And I'm going to guess that we've got a bit more out here to explore. That's not just off of Eikthyr. That probably includes this upper area here, some of this lower area here. I think that this is water and that is water, so it's probably going to more or less connect. So we'll do some exploration next time around. And, I want to show you the thing. I want to show you Deathloop, because it's going to be terrible. Because trying to stream something on top of it not being good is going to do bad things to my computer, but it's hilarious. Let's see, close that one. Game capture on. Any full screen application, cool. The trolley problem, Inc. Oh no. AMD driver version 21.5.2 detected. Game supports driver 21.9.1 and newer. Playing without the recommended driver can affect performance. Please install. So the thing is that I went into my Radeon, like AMD Radeon software service, And yeah, it doesn't list anything. Come on now. Here we go. Let's make that widescreen. Like I said, the problem is that I'm gonna have to upgrade everything. So might as well. I mean, I might as well like upgrade. I may as well go in and like. No, just wait. Oh, just wait. So Elite Dangerous did a little bit of this, where it like adapts your processor or your GPU so that the information coming out of it is not going to overload it.
You gonna call me like this all the time, Julie? I give approximately 0 fucks about what you call yourself.
But you did, once. We used to be
So like
friends.
staring at something really closely and
So that's why
focusing
you
on it,
told everyone to kill me.
it
But I'm the
kind of
only one
mostly
talking to
stops,
you. So what does that tell you?
like
That I
holds
hang
it,
out with the wrong people.
and
All
then
right.
makes the
So,
resolution a
sir,
little bit better.
shut it down.
But like everything else around is just blur. So I figure that like any money that I get from the stream is gonna go back into the stream. So if I can get $1,000 by like, 2 years from now, or if I can get a corporate sponsorship. So let's see if I can find a person. See, yeah, you can see how bad it is really far away. The spotlight is like morphing a little bit. So it's mostly stuttering because I'm trying to stream. That doesn't seem good. I know that there's people up here. There, is that a person? Nope. There we go. There's a person. Another person up there. So like I said, this adds. It's not completely unplayable, but it's pretty awful. So like I said, this adds an interesting layer to my playing of this game, because this is not how I see, but this is potentially how other people see. Like if they have 2060 vision or something like that. So it's just beyond a certain area, it's just blur, and that, like, there's an E on there. Yep. I can see that even over here. There's an E on it, but that's about all I can see. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here and not destroy my computer. So, certainly an interesting little excursion. I'm gonna actually play this eventually. But yeah, not Not on stream, I don't think. As funny as that is. Okay. So, thanks everybody for coming in tonight, hanging out. We'll be back on Wednesday for more math stuff, and hanging out in other people's streams all over the place for all sorts of other stuff. So, let's figure out who to raid tonight. Uh-oh. I might have overdone it. Hang on. Let's just kill Deathloop for now. Ditch the whole process. It's fine. Stream manager. Yeah. Well, glad to have you. If you're hanging out, and anytime you want to come by, again, do some more mathy type stuff, we'll be here. All right. What else we got on tonight? What the hell? Huh. My phone kicked out at some point. What else we got? It is not Friday. Update. Okay, so it looks like she's just kind of... Alright, let's go over and see Wandable. He is doing Noita, which I've done on the stream before. He is much better at Noita, and he also is currently doing a mod testing run. So we'll hop on over there and say hello. So again, thanks for stopping in. We will see you next week. This is Obi-Wan Pez for Nzimplex Pachinko. Have a good night.